Welcome to Story Lab. This week, we're talking about forgiveness, while we take a look at the story of someone who knew just where to go with her messy life. Hey, I'm Skylar.
And I'm Sebastian.
We're talking about forgiveness, which is deciding that someone who has wronged you doesn't have to pay.
Speaking of forgiveness,
Yes,
you know how we're all works in progress?
of course.
And you remember that beaker full of delectable M&Ms that you left on the counter yesterday?
Oh, right, thanks for reminding me. I totally want a snack right now.
Yeah, about that.
Wait, that's the beaker that the M&Ms were in?
This is the beaker.
Where are the M&Ms? You did not eat an entire beaker full of M&Ms!
I was only gonna munch on a handful, but they kept calling to me.
I cannot believe you ate all of my M&Ms.
I feel terrible.
Bet your stomach did too.
True story. I'm really, really sorry. I'll get you some more.
I forgive you.
Thank you. I'm gonna get you some more, I promise.
Cool. But I know something we can do with it first.
Something better than M&Ms?
Yep. Let's make it. Step 1. Take a candle and place it in the center of the dish. Step 2. Put a few drops of light food coloring in a container of water.
Because around here, we love food coloring.
Then, pour the water in a shallow glass dish until it just covers the bottom. Step 3. Light the candle.
Grown-up alert, grown-up alert.
Yes, make sure you have a grown-up present.
Or you may accidentally do something that requires a lot of forgiveness.
That was a little dramatic.
Yeah.
Step 4. Cover the candle with a glass beaker.
A conveniently empty glass beaker.
Then the final step is you're going to put a few drops of dark food coloring around the rim.
What's with the water? It's all getting sucked up into the beaker.
Pretty cool, huh?
What just happened?
Science!
As the flame consumes oxygen, the pressure inside the beaker is decreased, while the pressure outside the glass stays constant. Since the outside pressure is greater than the inside pressure, the water gets pushed up into the beaker.
Taking away the water in the dish.
Oh, just like how forgiveness takes away all the bad things you've done.
I see what you did there.
I love a good visual.
It's time for...
The story before the story.
Today, we're in Luke, the third book in the New Testament. But before Luke, in the very beginning, out of a deep, deep love, God made an amazing world. But when people turned away from God, the world was broken.
God made a plan to draw people back into relationship. So, at the right time, God sent a tiny baby to be born in the small town of Bethlehem. God's very own son, Jesus. When Jesus grew up, he began to travel from town to town, teaching and healing. And while most people loved him, the religious leaders grumbled.
That Jesus was changing the way they'd always done things. And they didn't like it. One bit.
Which is where our story starts.
Take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Chloe.
Hey, Chloe.
The religious leaders, some called Pharisees, were keeping a sharp eye on Jesus. They weren't completely sure about him yet. So, one of them, a man named Simon, invited Jesus to have dinner at his house. But even though Simon gave Jesus the honor of inviting him for dinner, Simon left out something important. See, at this time, everyone wore sandals, no socks. And when they walked the city streets, they got whatever was on those streets all over their feet. Use your imagination. Ugh. So, usually, when a guest came to your house, servants would wash their feet right away. As a sign of honor, you might give them a kiss and anoint their head with oil. But Simon didn't do any of this for Jesus. And someone noticed. A woman from town had heard Jesus was going to be at Simon's home. She lived a difficult life and done many wrong things, but she knew that Jesus' love and mercy were greater than her sins. She desperately wanted to see Jesus, so she came to Simon's house and saw where Jesus sat at the table. Now, you've got to understand something about how people sat to eat at this time. Tables were low down, so you actually sat on the floor. In fact, you might even lie down on your side with your head over here by the table and your feet back over here behind you. The woman had bought an expensive container of perfume to pour on Jesus' feet as a sign of love and honor. She must have thought it was terrible that no one had offered to wash his feet and wanted to do it herself. But she didn't have water or a towel. So this woman actually used her own tears to wash Jesus' feet and wipe them with her hair. It seems strange to us, but it was an incredible sign of this woman's love and devotion. After washing Jesus' feet, the woman kissed them. Then she took the perfume she'd bought and poured it out over them. As the strong, sweet smell of perfume filled the room, Simon and the other guests watched the woman. They were shocked by what she was doing. Simon said to himself,
"If this man were a prophet, he would know who was touching him. He would know what kind of woman she is. She is a sinner."
Simon thought this inside his own head, but Jesus knew exactly what Simon was thinking. So he told a story to help Simon understand.
Simon, I have something to tell you.
Tell me, teacher.
2 people owed money to a certain lender. One owed him 500 silver coins. The other owed him 50 silver coins. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so the lender let them go without paying. Which of them will love him more?
The room was so quiet, you could hear a pin drop. At last, Simon spoke.
I suppose the one who owed him the most money.
You are right. Do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water to wash my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman has not stopped kissing my feet since I came in. You did not put any olive oil on my head, but she has poured this perfume on my feet.
Wow! Simon got called out! Simon had invited Jesus out of curiosity, but he hadn't shown him any love or respect.
This woman's many sins have been forgiven. She has shown that she understands this by her great acts of love. But whoever has been forgiven only a little, loves only little. Your sins are forgiven.
Excuse me. Who is this who even forgives sins?
The other guests whispered and exclaimed in shock, but Jesus smiled at the woman with deep love in his eyes.
Your faith has saved you. Go in peace.
The room was filled with religious leaders who were quick to call the woman a sinner. But they didn't look at their own lives. They didn't see their pride and hard hearts needed forgiveness just as much as the things this woman had done. The end.
I gotta be honest, all the feet washing and perfume stuff seems a little bit strange, but she was all in for Jesus.
Exactly. She saw how much she needed Jesus.
All the religious leaders missed it. They thought they had it all together.
They didn't think they needed Jesus or his forgiveness.
So, what's our part in this story?
Jesus made it clear. Everyone needs forgiveness. Not just the guy who robbed a bank or the school bully.
All of us have done things wrong. We've all messed up.
And those wrong things, big and small, have broken our relationship with God. They make us feel far away from God.
We all need forgiveness.
It's why God sent Jesus to be here on earth with us. Jesus showed us how to live. He's the only one who never sinned, and then Jesus laid down his life for us.
When Jesus rose to life again, sin and death were defeated.
When you choose to follow Jesus and ask God for forgiveness, God wipes away the wrong things that you've done. God looks at Jesus' perfect life instead of your sins and says that you don't have to pay for those sins anymore.
That's the most amazing thing ever.
So don't miss this. You've done wrong things. You need to be forgiven.
But because of Jesus, God is ready and willing to forgive you and wipe away the wrong things you've done right this second.
That's amazing.
Enjoy! See you next time!
Bye, Chloe.
So here's the thing. Everyone needs forgiveness.
Just like you forgave me for the M&Ms.
Wow, thank you.
Can I have a few?
A few. Okay. Thanks for joining us in the Story Lab. See you next time.
So there. I can't send that. Delete, delete, delete. Oh, hey. Welcome to Story Lab. This week, we're talking about forgiveness while we take a look at the story of someone who found a higher perspective.
Hey, I'm Carter.
And I'm Zeke.
We're talking about forgiveness, which is deciding that someone who has wronged you doesn't have to pay.
Spoiler alert, there is money in today's story.
A handful of pennies is not really a lot of money.
That's what you think. These pennies could buy a lot in 1950.
That's what I thought.
In 1950, a loaf of bread cost 12 cents, a comic book cost 10 cents, and a candy bar cost 5 cents.
It takes a lot more pennies to buy a candy bar now, Zeke.
Yeah, but it only takes 1 penny for me to amaze you.
Really?
Oh yeah, I shall now make this penny disappear just by rubbing it.
Mm-hmm.
Observe. See?
You
Gone.
just made all those pennies fall off the table.
You have no sense of mystery.
Ah, but I do. I know how to amaze you with this penny.
How so?
I can make all this dirty tarnish disappear in a single step.
You're on.
Then,
Let's do it.
Step 1, find a really dark, dirty penny and place it in a dish.
Done.
Step 2, take out your super secret cleaning agent.
Hot sauce?
Yep, any kind will do. Squeeze some hot sauce on the penny and then rub it around.
What now?
Wait 10 minutes. Step 3, rub the penny with your fingers and then rinse it with water. See? Ta-da!
That is so cool. I can't believe it's the same penny.
I know, right?
Copper becomes dirty or tarnished when oxygen in the air reacts with the copper to form copper oxide. Hot sauce has vinegar, which contains acetic acid and salt, or sodium chloride. Both help to break the copper oxide free from the penny.
Double whammy.
The hot sauce wipes the dirt away like it was never there.
You know, my mom has this giant copper tub that's extremely tarnished. You think the hot sauce would work on it?
I mean, there is only one way to find out.
Ready?
Ready.
You know, I wonder how this tastes.
I don't think you want to taste that, Zeke.
Oh, is that a dare?
It's a double dare. Okay.
Oh, that's not half bad. Oh. Oh. Whoa, that's hot. Oh, that's hot. Whoa, oh, that's really hot.
Zeke, I would love some help.
Give me a moment. Moment of truth.
Moment of truth. It looks so different.
It's completely changing it.
Speaking of which, it's time for
The story before the story.
Today, we're in Luke, the third book in the New Testament. But before Luke, in the very beginning, out of a deep, deep love, God made an amazing world.
But when people turned away from God, the world was broken.
God made a plan to draw people back into relationships. So at the right time, God made a teeny tiny baby to be born in the small town of Bethlehem, God's very own son, Jesus.
When Jesus grew up, he began to travel from town to town, teaching and healing. Everywhere Jesus went, big crowds of people pressed in around him. Religious leaders, everyday people, even Roman soldiers, and people who were considered outcasts.
Which is where our story starts.
Take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Brian. One day, Jesus and his followers passed through the city of Jericho on their way to Jerusalem. As usual, a huge crowd gathered. They pressed in from all sides along the road, hoping to see Jesus, to touch him, to be healed. But one man was stuck on the edge of the crowd, a tax collector named Zacchaeus. Now, we know 3 things about Zacchaeus. He had a really hard to spell name, he had a lot of money, and he was super short, which meant he was basically getting run over by this crowd. Now, okay, you've got to understand about tax collectors, nobody liked them. And to be honest, it was for a good reason. Tax collectors were Jewish people who worked for the Roman government that was ruling over them. So it was like they were working for the enemy. And to make it worse, tax collectors got paid by demanding extra money for themselves. So Zacchaeus had gotten rich by taking money from his neighbors. In spite of all this, Zacchaeus really wanted a chance to see Jesus. Maybe he'd even heard that one of Jesus' own disciples, Matthew, had been a tax collector.
Please, could I get through?
But no one wanted to give way to the man who had taken their money. Finally, Zacchaeus looked ahead and saw a sycamore tree right at the edge of the road.
That's it?
Zacchaeus raced ahead to that tree and climbed right up to a sturdy branch that reached out over the road.
Best seat in the house.
The crowd drew closer and closer until Jesus was right below Zacchaeus.
There's just something about him.
At that very moment, Jesus looked up. Zacchaeus could feel his heart racing. He could tell that somehow Jesus knew everything about him, all the wrong things he had done, all the lies he had told, and the money he had stolen.
Zacchaeus, come down at once. I must stay at your house today.
What? Jesus could have been annoyed with Zacchaeus or called him out in front of everyone for the wrong things Zacchaeus had done. But instead, Jesus invited himself over to have dinner with Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus' heart filled with joy as he rushed ahead to prepare his home for Jesus.
Jesus, come in.
Lots of people had followed. They couldn't believe that Jesus would choose to hang out with somebody who had done so many wrong things.
Jesus has gone to be the guest of that sinner.
Zacchaeus was filled with gratitude. Jesus loved him and had chosen to forgive him. And Zacchaeus knew he couldn't keep on living his old life.
Look, Lord, here and now I give half of what I own to those who are poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay it back. I will pay back 4 times the amount I took.
Today, salvation has come to your house. The Son of Man came to look for the lost and save them.
In a single day, Zacchaeus went from outcast to beloved follower of Jesus. His entire life was changed from the inside out. The end.
Wow, that's amazing.
So Zacchaeus promised to give away half of what he had.
Plus 4 times the amount that he cheated out of anyone.
That might have been everything he owned.
But it didn't matter because Jesus.
Jesus had forgiven Zacchaeus completely, even before he asked.
So what's our part in the story?
Well, forgiveness can change people, starting with you. When you ask God to forgive you of the wrong things you've done, it frees you from carrying around a load of guilt and fear. It frees you to love God and love others.
And when you choose to forgive those who have wronged you, it can change them too.
Like maybe your little brother borrows your video game without asking and messes it up. You could yell at him, get in a big argument, and stay mad for days.
Or you could choose to forgive your brother. Then you don't have to carry that anger.
Plus, it could change your brother's heart too and make a way for you to be friends.
Forgiving someone does not always mean that they will change, but it opens the door for them to live differently.
Like Zacchaeus.
Exactly.
Sharing God's forgiveness with others is a pretty incredible gift.
Sure is. See you next time.
So here's the thing. When you forgive others, it can change them.
And hot sauce. Hot sauce can change things too.
Now you're making me want some hot sauce.
Thanks for joining us in the Story Lab.
See you next time. Hey, welcome to Story Lab. This week we're talking about forgiveness while we take a look at the story of someone who totally missed the point. Hey everybody, I'm Carter.
And I'm Zeke.
We're talking about forgiveness.
Which is deciding that someone who has wronged you doesn't have to pay.
So Zeke, have you tried out forgiveness lately?
Yeah, I forgave my mom this morning for waking me up.
You should thank her for that.
But I don't like waking up.
Hey, because your mom woke you up, you're here, and now we get to do all this cool stuff.
I do like cool stuff.
And it's your turn to figure out the cool stuff.
Oh, yep.
You did plan something, right?
Yep.
Right?
Still waking up, okay?
You know, you could just drink coffee.
Oh, that's awful. Let's get a move on.
Ooh, what's under here?
It's the heavyweight challenge. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to pick up each item and then rank it from lightest to heaviest.
That should be easy.
Go for it.
Okay, feathers. Okay, the Rice Krispies are heavier, I think. Yeah, unless you're trying to be sneaky and the feathers are actually heavier, right? Yeah. Okay, what's next? Oh, well, pennies, that's easy. That's gotta be one of the heaviest, right? So, oh, no, it should be the billiard balls. Yep, the billiard balls, yeah. Pennies, put them right here. The bread and there.
Final answer.
Final answer.
How confident are you?
Very confident. The bread and the towel were a little tricky, but I think I got the rest.
Okay, now we weigh.
Okay. I guess we can start with the feathers first. Oh, okay, so 1 pound of feathers. Let's go with the Rice Krispies next. Yes. Wait, the feathers and the Rice Krispies are both 1 pound? I guess they were kind of close. Hold on. I have to see this. Oh, you totally got me.
What?
All this stuff is 1 pound, right? Even the billiard balls.
Maybe.
Okay. We're gonna see right now. That's what we're gonna do. 1 pound, Zeke. Let's try the pennies. The pennies can't be 1 pound. They can't be. 1 pound. Zeke, if the billiard balls are 1 pound, what? How does all this stuff weigh the same?
Congratulations! You have discovered the size-weight illusion! This is the phenomenon in which the smaller of two equally heavy objects is perceived to be heavier than the larger object.
So, a pound of pennies, or billiard balls, or even bricks will always feel heavier than a pound of feathers?
Even though they weigh the same.
Mind blown.
Today's story might blow your mind too.
It's time for
The story before the story.
Today we're in Matthew, the first book in the New Testament. But before Matthew, in the very beginning, out of a deep, deep love, God made an amazing world.
But when people turned away from God, the world was broken.
God made a plan to draw people back into relationship. So at the right time, God sent a tiny baby to be born in the small town of Bethlehem. God's very own son, Jesus.
When Jesus grew up, he began to travel from town to town, teaching and healing. Often, when Jesus taught, he spoke in parables or stories, using everyday things to help people understand spiritual truths.
Which is where our story starts.
Take it away, Brian.
Hey everyone, I'm Brian. One day, Peter, one of Jesus' closest friends and followers, came up to him with a big question.
Lord, how many times should I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times?
Now, Peter may have been giving himself a pat on the back here. Hey, look at what an awesome person I am, forgiving more than once. But Jesus wasn't impressed with that. I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. Jesus knew that Peter and his other friends weren't really getting the point, so Jesus used a story to make it clear. The kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to collect all the money his servants owed him.
Who owes the most money to the royal treasury?
That would be Amos.
How much does he owe?
10,000 bags of gold.
10,000 bags of gold?
10,000 bags of gold.
Bring him to me this instant.
The servant who owed 10,000 bags of gold was immediately brought before the king.
You owe me 10,000 bags of gold. Pay up.
I don't have it.
You don't have it.
I don't have it.
Guards, sell this man and his whole family to work until they can pay back every cent.
No! Please, just give me a little time. I'll pay back everything. Okay, now come on, let's be real. There is no way that the servant would be able to pay off 10,000 bags of gold, even if he worked his whole life. The servant knew it. The king knew it. And he felt sorry for the man.
All right. I forgive you.
You forgive me?
I forgive you. You don't have to pay a cent.
The servant was so amazed and overjoyed that he left the palace leaping and dancing. Minutes ago, it seemed he would never be free. Now, he didn't owe a single penny. He could go anywhere, do anything.
Woo-hoo-hoo! Life is good.
But even as this man celebrated, he saw another of the king's servants, a man who owed him 100 silver coins. The first servant stopped in his tracks.
Hey, you owe me 100 silver coins.
Yes, I do. I don't quite have it all.
The first servant grabbed the second man by the throat and began to choke him.
Pay back what you owe me.
Give me time. I'll pay back everything.
Now, the first servant just had a debt of 10,000 bags of gold wiped out completely. He could definitely overlook a few silver coins, right? Well, you'd think. Instead, the first servant had the second one thrown in prison until he could repay the whole debt. Some of the king's other servants saw what happened, and boy, were they steamed about it. They went immediately to the king and told him the whole story.
Bring him to me.
Hey, Your Majesty.
You evil servant.
Ooh, a little harsh.
I forgave all that you owed me because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have had mercy on the other servant just as I had mercy on you?
That's a great question. The king was so angry that he had the servant thrown in jail, sentenced to stay there until he paid back every penny. Jesus finished his story. This is how my Father in heaven will treat each of you, unless you forgive your brother or your sister from your heart. Peter and the others were silent as the truth of Jesus' words sunk in. Forgiveness isn't something you can put limits on. God has forgiven each of us more than we will ever know, so we can pass on that same forgiveness to those who wrong us too. The end.
That is crazy. I mean, how did the first servant not get it?
Yeah, that's the big question. It seems so obvious to us, but we can be like the first servant sometimes too.
So, what's our part in the story?
Well, it's easy to think of yourself as a pretty good person, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I've never robbed a bank or laundered money for the Italian mafia because they have my goldfish hostage or anything like that.
Exactly. But truth is, we've all done wrong things, and those wrong things hurt others. Even more importantly, they break our relationship with God. Every wrong thing we do is a sin against God, and they add up big time.
But God
forgives us of everything. Because of Jesus, God wipes away the weight of all those wrong things we've done the very moment we ask.
And because we've been forgiven so much, we can forgive others.
Yeah, and when your dad has to work late instead of playing basketball like he promised, you can forgive him.
When someone shoves in front of you in the lunch line, you can forgive them.
Or when your friend wrecks your new bike, you can forgive him.
There are times someone will hurt you in a really big way, something that may seem impossible to forgive.
But forgiving someone does not mean that what they did was okay. And it does not mean that you let them keep hurting you.
That's right. Forgiveness isn't just for them. It's for you. It frees you from carrying the weight of bitterness.
It means you're letting God deal with what they did.
And it may be really hard, but with God's help, we can forgive anyone.
I think you got it. Now forgive me, because I gotta go. See you next time.
So, here's the thing. Forgive others because God forgives you.
Forgiving others can make you feel as light as a feather.
Hey, check this out.
Ooh, very pretty.
Now, how much do you think it weighs?
A cloud? They look so light and fluffy, but they're really big. I don't know. How about a pound?
Good guess. How about 1,000,000,004,000,000 pounds?
Okay, no way.
Yeah, seriously, for real, yeah.
I can't even wrap my brain around that.
Thanks for joining us in the Story Lab. See you next time.
Hey, welcome to Story Lab. This week, we're talking about forgiveness, while we take a look at the story of a man who found himself far from home.
Hey, I'm Skylar.
And I'm Sebastian,
We're talking about forgiveness.
which is deciding that someone who has wronged you doesn't have to pay.
What's that?
I thought I tried my hand at a little sketch for today's show.
Can I see it?
It's not good.
Please.
I mean,
It looked really good from what I saw. Can I see it?
okay.
The fig is really cute. I like it.
Can I have it back?
Yeah, of course. Oh no! I am so sorry.
Great.
Thanks. Okay. What are you doing?
It's ruined.
No, you can totally save that. Make it into something cool.
You have to say that because you messed it up.
No, lots of great artists make big mistakes and use them in their artwork.
Really?
For sure. In fact, I know one of them. Her name is Whitney, and we're gonna talk to her. Right now.
Did you plan this?
Happy accident. Hey, Whitney, come on in.
Hey!
Hi.
Good to see you.
Yes, you too.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you do?
Sure, I am an artist. I draw and I paint. I also do some cut paper animation. I've been drawing and painting since I was a little girl.
That's awesome. What do we have here?
Right, so I like to draw from observation. This is candy, and that I had lying around my house, and a plant, and also trees. I love drawing trees in different seasons.
These are amazing. What got you interested in art?
Well, I've always loved to draw and paint, but when I was in high school, my art teacher laughed at me because I couldn't read a ruler. And she said, "You're gonna be an art teacher," and that is exactly what I did.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I like to paint, it always turns into some unrecognizable color blotches.
Well, I made a lot of mistakes too when I first started painting, and I still struggle with how to create what I see in my imagination.
So, what do you do with your mistakes?
Well, I like to say that I repurpose them. Take this, for example. I was using my hot glue gun, and it dripped all over this canvas I was already working on.
Honestly, it still looks pretty cool to me, but I get what you mean. So, how will you repurpose that?
I've got a few ideas. Can I show you later?
Absolutely. In the meantime, it's time for...
The story before the story.
Today, we're in Luke. But before Luke, in the very beginning, out of a deep, deep love, God made an amazing world.
But when people turned away from God, the world was broken.
God made a plan to draw people back into relationship. So, at the right time, God sent a tiny baby to be born in the small town of Bethlehem. God's very own son, Jesus.
When Jesus grew up, he began to travel from town to town, teaching and healing. Often when Jesus taught, he spoke in parables or stories using everyday things to help people understand spiritual truths.
Which is where our story starts.
Take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Chloe.
Hi, Chloe.
One day, while Jesus was teaching, a group of tax collectors and others who were considered outcasts gathered around Jesus. The religious leaders were totally shocked by this.
This man welcomes sinners and riffraff.
He even eats with them.
Jesus turned to the leaders and invited them to listen too. He spoke to them in parables, or stories, one about a lost sheep and one about a lost coin. The third story was about a lost son. There once was a wealthy man who had 2 sons. The youngest son was totally fed up with living at home. He hated having to do what his dad said and trying to live up to his perfect big brother. So, he did something extreme.
Give me my share of all your money.
Now, this was really rude, but it's even worse than you might think. Usually, family money would only be passed on to children after the father died. So it's like the younger son was saying he wished his father was dead. Even though the father must have been terribly hurt, he divided up his property and gave a share of the money to the younger son.
I'm in the money. Woohoo, the sky is sunny.
The younger son took off for a faraway country. When he arrived, he started spending money like it was water. Fine clothes, awesome food, wild parties. The younger son lived it up, big time. But you can guess what happened. The money ran out. And right about that time, a famine hit. It was hard to find food, even if you did have money. The younger son was stuck. So he went to work for a pig farmer. The younger son was so desperate, he actually wanted to eat the disgusting pig scraps. The sharp hunger in his stomach woke him up.
At home, my father's servants have more than enough food to eat. But I'm dying from hunger.
The younger son started to form a plan.
I'll go home to my father. I'll say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven, and I have sinned against you. I am no longer fit to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. Yeah, that's it.
So the younger son set off for home. He was tired and weak, and the journey seemed to take forever. But at last, he neared home.
I'm no longer fit to be called your son.
But while the son was still a long way off, his father saw him. The father's heart was filled with love. He ran to his son and threw his arms around him and kissed him.
Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer fit to be called your son.
But the father called out to the servants,
Quick! Bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattest calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. This son of mine was dead, and now he is alive again. He was lost, and now he is found.
In no time at all, the younger son was dressed in fresh clothes instead of rags, and found himself the guest of honor at a feast. His head must have been spinning. But meantime, we can't forget the older brother. The whole time his kid brother was out living wild and wasting money, the older brother was working hard for their father. The older brother had been out in the field all day, so when he came home to the sounds of music and dancing, he was shocked. He called one of the servants.
What's going on?
Haven't you heard? Your brother came back. Your dad's so excited, he killed the fattest calf for a party.
What?
You should come in. Your father's looking for you.
Let me think. No.
Just think what you'd feel like if you were the older brother. This whole thing was so unfair. When the father came out and begged his older son to come in, the son let him have it.
Look, all these years, I've worked like a slave for you. I have always obeyed your orders. You never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But this son of yours wasted your money on crazy things. Now he comes home, and for him, you killed the fattest calf.
The father looked on his older son with the same love he gave his younger son.
My son, you are always with me. Everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad. This brother of yours was dead, and now he is alive again. He was lost, and now he is found.
And that's the end. Jesus didn't tell the crowd what happened next. Maybe the older brother had a change of heart and came inside to have a blast with his brother. Or maybe he held on to his anger and stayed outside, alone. The end.
Wow, there is a lot going on in that story.
Yeah, sometimes I get the younger brother. Sometimes I want to do what I want to do. But then also sometimes I feel like the older brother, and I want everything to be perfectly fair.
They both needed forgiveness.
The younger brother for being hurtful and making really poor decisions.
And the older one for being angry and bitter.
So, what's our part in the story?
Well, the father forgave both his sons. He forgave the son who did big, bold, awful things, but he also forgave the son who did everything right on the outside, but had a hard, bitter heart. And God is just like that father.
God is always ready to forgive you for what you've done, no matter how big or small.
If you go on a website that your parents specifically told you is off limits.
Or you had a rotten attitude when your mom asked you to do something.
If you lie about brushing your teeth.
No matter what, you can always come back to God and know that God will forgive you.
Just like the younger son.
And the older one, too.
Knowing God will forgive you is never an excuse to try getting away with something. You will only hurt yourself and others. But you can have absolute confidence that God will always welcome you back, no matter what.
It's the most amazing news ever.
You got that right. See you next time.
Bye, Chloe. So here's the thing. God will always forgive you.
Yeah, God is like a master artist. He takes our messes and mistakes and turns them into something beautiful.
Speaking of which, hey there.
Hey.
We're so excited to see what you did with your mess up. Well, here you go. Wow.
I took my hot glue gun and I added more hot glue and then I turned it into flowers.
It looks like you did it on purpose.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us today and showing us your process.
My pleasure. See you guys next time.
Bye, Whitney.
She really inspired me.
Hey, let's see your sketch. See how your mistake turned into something amazing?
Yeah. Thanks for joining us in the Story Lab.
See you next time.